Father Elias was a Franciscan of Maximilian Kolbe. I think it's a new congregation. And he was ordained, and he came to Houston inquiring about a Carmelite vocation, saying that he had a Carmelite name, and it was his given name, not his baptismal name. And his given name was John. So he was going to do a long live-in in Houston with the pre-novices to see if indeed he had a Carmelite vocation. And I enjoyed Father Elias around the house. He was a hard worker. He always attended everything. He liked to do big projects. And every Palm Sunday, like just before Palm Sunday, Edgar knows this, those who went through Houston know this, we would climb the palm tree that was in the very center of the courtyard and trim it, because it had to be trimmed once a year anyway. So why not trim it for Palm Sunday? That way you have these huge fronds to bring into the church and everything, so you could have it like a wild Palm Sunday. And Father Elias, climbed the palm tree. And he climbed the palm tree in his habit. And he was cutting these fronds. But a lot of fun. But I would always call him John. I would never call him Father Elias. His mother would call, "May I speak to Father Elias?" And I go, "Do you mean John, your son?" And yes, I mean John. So finally Father Elias said, "Why do you call me John?" And I said, "Because I think you're here because you want to be John. You're tired of being Father Elijah or Father Elias. You want to be you, is why you want to join this congregation. You don't want to be this caricature, this persona, this structured being that's called Father Elias. You want to be you. I think is why you're here. Because we Carmelites, we don't have a founder. We don't have, we're kind of like, we like people to be who they are. And I think that's why in the Carmelite tradition, I think it bled in from other congregations, but in the Carmelite tradition, you didn't take a religious name. You took a religious title. So Therese Martin becomes Therese of the Child Jesus. Teresa Sanchez becomes Teresa of Jesus. Juan Yepes becomes Juan of St. Matthew, and then Juan of the Cross, or John of the Cross. Elizabeth Cadiz becomes Elizabeth of the Trinity. And in the Oakheim tradition, according to Joachim Smith, because we followed the Reformed train, it was even stronger. Don't take a religious name, keep your baptismal name, and take a title. And so I started to call him John of St. Elias. I said, that's as far as the Carmelites will go. And I think it really worked for him, because Elias, or Elijah, is really kind of a loser saint, a loser spiritual founder. And he's great, because he is so human. Early on, he calls the Great Famine. And then he calls for an end of the Great Famine. But does the Great Famine end? No. So he sends his servant up the hill. See if you see any clouds. He comes back. No, none. So go ahead. See any clouds now? No, nothing. See any clouds now? No, nothing. See any clouds now? 7 times. He wants it to rain. He's going to insist. But the servant comes and finally says, yeah, there's a small cloud. As small as a man's hand. Elijah is not happy with this. He says it's going to end, and it doesn't end. Or when Ahab and Jezebel go after him over the slaying of the prophets of Baal, he hides. And then he runs. And then he lays down under the furze tree, or the whatever broom tree. It's called different things. And he prays for death. Take my life. I have had it. Such human emotion. And then when the Lord comes to him and says, go upon the mountain, and I will appear before you. What does Elisha do? He hides in the cave. So we see Elijah upset. We see Elijah depressed. We see Elijah fearful. So in today's readings, that first reading from the book of Sirach, it's all the wonderful things that Elijah did. But I think it should begin with all the human things that Elijah was. And I think that's why. That's how Carmelite spirituality works. It starts with the human and moves us forward. It never puts us into a holier than thou, or kind of plaster saint, or a wonderful, but artificial castle in the air kind of thing. You start with you, and you move forward. And I think that's the whole idea of the way Carmelites knit. You are Therese of the child Jesus. Model your life more and more on that. You are Elizabeth, but now Elizabeth of the Trinity. Model your life more and more upon that. Move forward. So, with that said, what is your name? It's not enough. It needs to have an of the to call us forward into transformation, into greater love, into greater modeling of Jesus in the world today for others and for ourselves. Think of a name that will inspire you to move forward. Never losing your humanity, never losing your origins, never losing you are you. But you are you moving forward.